Multiply whole number and fractions. So whole numbers can be turned into fractions by putting them over 1. So let's look at this in the first example. So we see that there is 1,350 pounds of weld. If 1/6 is welded on the first day, how many pounds is that? Reduce the fraction if possible. So if we're going to take a whole number and make it a fraction, we just put it over 1. So here's our whole number. So we have 1,350. And if we just go ahead and put it over 1, it's the same thing, but now it's a fraction. Then we need to go ahead and multiply it by 1/6, because this will tell us how many pounds of 1,350 is 1/6 of it. So when we do that, we can go ahead and multiply. So when we multiply what's on the top, and we multiply what's on the bottom together. So we have 1,350 times 1, so 1,350, because anything times 1 is equal to itself. Then we have 1 times 6, so that's just 6. Then we look to see that this is even. So we could have, before we even multiply, we could have probably reduced by this 6 and this 1,350 by dividing out there. But we can just do it here. So 1,350 can, on both the top and the bottom, can be divided by 2. So then on the bottom we get 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. And now 1,350 divided by 2, well, we can just go ahead and put it right here. 2 can go into 13 6 times, so we have 12. 2 times 6 is 12. We go ahead and subtract, we get 1. Bring down the 5. 2 can go to 15 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. Go ahead and subtract, we get 1. Go ahead and bring down that 0. So now we go 2 can go into 10 5 times, because 2 times 5 is 10. We subtract, we get 0. So we have 675 on the top. Well, the next thing is to see is 675 divisible by 3? So we can just go ahead and see. So now we go, 3 can go into 675. So we see 3 can go into 6 2 times, because 3 times 2 is 6. We go ahead and subtract, we get 0. Bring down the 7. 3 can go to 7 2 times, because 3 times 2 is 6. We go ahead and subtract, we get 1. Bring down the 5, and now 3 can go into 15 5 times. So 675 is divisible by 3. So we can go 675 divided by 3 on both the top and the bottom. So we get 225 on the top, and on the bottom we just get 3 divided by 3, which is 1. So we could just actually write 225. And this would be for pounds of weld. So 1/6 of 1,350 is equal to 225. Now let's do another example. Example 2. We have 5 pieces of steel bar that are welded together. If each piece is 11 over 2 inches long, which is an improper fraction, how long is the bar after it being welded together? So we just need to then multiply these 5 pieces, so 5 times this number, to get us the total length. So we have 5, which we can just put over 1 to get our fraction. And then we're going to go ahead and multiply it by 11 over 2. Then what we do is we're going to go ahead and multiply the top numbers together. Then on the bottom we'll multiply those together. So 5 times 11 is 55. And 1 times 2 is 2. Now we know 55 can't be divided by 2, as 55 is odd because it ends in a 5. 2 can't be broken down any further because it's a prime number. So we would say our reduced fraction would be 55 over 2. And so we would say the total length is 55 over 2 inches long. Now let's do another example. Example 3. If a 4-inch titanium wire spool weighs 2/3 pound, what does 8 spools weigh? So the two things we're looking at is each spool weighs 2/3 pounds. And we're asking how many does 8 weigh? So our multiplication is 2/3 times 8. Now we want to make 8 a fraction, so we just put it over 1, and we go ahead and multiply. Then we multiply what's on the top, and then we multiply what's on the bottom together. So 2 times 8 is 16, and 3 times 1 is 3. So we would say this is reduced because 16 can't be divided by 3. So we'd have 16 over 3 pounds would be the total weight for 8 spools. Now let's do one final example. Example 4. A welder needs to cut 8 pieces from pipe. If each piece is 13 over 4/7 inches long, then what is the total length of pipe needed? We're going to use the expression below to help us solve. So this got converted to an improper fraction to make it a little bit easier now to then multiply. So now we have 13 4/7 is now being represented as 95 over 7. We have 8 pieces. So all we need to do then is make this 8 into a fraction. So we can go ahead and just rewrite this. So 95 over 7 times 8 over 1. Then we need to go ahead and multiply on the top, and then we multiply what's on the bottom. So here, so when we go 95 times 8, well, 95 times 8, well, we could go like this. We can go 5 times 8, which is 40, so carry the 4. 9 times 7 is 72, plus 4 is 76. So we have 760 on the top, and then on the bottom is 7 times 1, so that's just 7. Now, 7 is a prime number, and it can't go into 760 because 7 can go into 7, but the 7 can't go into 60 evenly. So we know this is its reduced fraction. So we would say this is our solution. Now, another way when you are doing these kind of problems, you can kind of start to estimate. So we see that this is 95, which is really close to 100. So what you could do is just go ahead and say 100 over 7 times then 8 over 1. Now 100 times 8 is just going to be 800 over 7. Now this isn't our answer at all, but because this is our trick. So what happens then is that we went from 100 instead of 95. So we have a whole difference of 5. So what we would do is then go 5 times 8, which is 40. And so if we go 8 times 5, which is 40, so we can go then 800 minus 40, and we just keep the same denominator, and that would equal 760 over 7, which is the exact same answer that we got. But this way, when you start to look at these numbers, you can kind of get a good guess to see if you're on the right track by rounding here and there to see if your solution that you got was around the same one. So this is what people do in order to kind of start to estimate if they're correct or not.